Today we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to look at validation sets in PowerShell. So here we have a function that uses a perfectly fine example of a parameter with a valid set. So the validation set in this particular example goes ahead and says if it's value at 1, which is folder, or folder 2, anything else will return an invalid function. So we can tab through the options in order to show what they are, and if I manually type out something different, as you can see, we get a failure or an error message, depending on how you look at it. Now, let's say that we wanted to make this a little bit more dynamic and have a validation set that uses real data, not just manually statically assigned information. So here we have a couple of folders, and I'm going to go ahead and fire up PowerShell again, and this time we're going to first use objects. So we're going to create a validation set using a class object. So we have a class, and if we look at this, we have a system iValidation value generator. So we've now created that class. We can now use that class as a lookup within our function. So here we have a valid set, which refers to our previously mentioned class. Now if I type out the command, in this case the function, and ask it for the parameters, I can see all of the values of the existing folders, and without having them manually assigned. Now since this is created, or the object is created at runtime, if I change the folder name and we tab through the options, they're still the same. But if I retype the function and simply tab through it again, the object is then created once more, or at least queried, and therefore we have the new value. This in itself presents a world of possibilities. However, there is a minor caveat to this. While this is an extremely powerful function, it's kind of useful to note that if you attempt it on earlier versions of PowerShell, aka 5, or anything below what is effectively PowerShell 6, so anything below core, you will be unable to do so, since this particular class doesn't exist in those lower versions. I have tested this on 6, I've also tested it on the new 7, which is currently still in a candidate release, but that works perfectly fine on both of those. I recommend that if you plan to use these, you do so on .NET Core version of PowerShell, also the PowerShell Core Edition. I hope you found this useful.